this presentation, I will be discussing Felipe Diederich and his book Communism and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. This piece is one of his best and shines a light on the struggles people go through under a dictatorship/communist government. Most of Diederich's pieces have been related to living among struggles in people's lives. Felipe Diederich was born in the Dominican Republic. Although he was born in the Dominican Republic, he is of Haitian American descent. He himself is not from Haiti, but his parents were kicked out of Haiti by the dictatorship of Papa Doc Duvalier in 1963. The idea of communism is a big factor in Diederich's life and inspiration. He has used his family's history to influence his writings. Although he did not have to go through communism himself, his family has dealt with it and has been a big part of his heritage. Before Diederich was a writer, he was a photographer. Diederich took pictures of things in nature, just like this photo. He shot close-up pictures of flowers and various things in nature. Later, the New York Times picked up his photos to show in their paper. This was one defining moment in Diederich's career. After 15 years of photojournalism, Diederich turned to writing. He started by writing short stories. These short stories were being published into literary journals. Some of his writings also received 4 Pushcart nominations. The Pushcart Prize is a nomination given to writers of short stories and later put in the annual publication of short stories. The manuscript of his young adult novel, Finding Home at the End of the World, won the 2017 Penn Phyllis Naylor Working Writer Fellowship. He also received a Florida Artist Fellowship in Literature from the state of Florida. Today, Diederich still writes short stories and continues his writing career. He also travels to many college campuses to share his story. He also discusses problems within the world while telling his story. Although some of his lectures probably were for extra credit, it is always good to hear how such a big idea impacted writers like Diederich. Communism has been around forever, but the idea really came out of the shadows when Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto. This piece talked about Marx's ideas on communism and why he thought they were beneficial. At first sight, communism seems pretty good, but as you look closer, it is a trap of complete equality and fairness. As the idea of communism spread like wildfire, countries who were reaching poverty turned to his style of government. Leaders like Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini misled their country by offering, quote, solutions to the country's problems. These solutions led to the demise in their country's economy and status in the future. One country that adopted communism later than Hitler's Germany and everyone else was Cuba. Fidel Castro led a regime to overthrow the government in a forceful fashion. During Castro's reign, Cuba became notorious for their communist ideas and policies. Citizens would try to escape any way they could. They often tried to escape in the ocean. One country that adopted communism later than Cuba is Germany, and everyone else was Cuba. Fidel Castro under communist regime to overthrow the government. Communism and the art of motorcycle maintenance. During Castro's reign, tell the story of the main notorious for their communist ideas and policies. These citizens would try to escape any way they could. Never seen before. They often tried to escape in the ocean. But why was country that adopted communism later than Hitler's Germany? They had little to nothing everyone else, but there was one thing about Castro that led a regime to overthrow the government in a forceful. These Cubans, during Castro's reign, Cuba became victorious for their communist ideas and policies. Citizens would try to escape any way they could. They often tried to escape in the ocean. These people of Cuba that Diederich admired were one country that adopted communism later than Hitler's Germany, and everyone else was Cuba. Fidel Castro led a regime to overthrow the government in a forceful fashion. During Castro's being passed down, Cuba became notorious for their communist idea passed down. New ideas. Citizens would try to escape any way they could. They often tried to escape. Harley-Davidson was created in 1903. One country that adopted communism later than Hitler's Germany. William S. Harley, Cuba, and Fidel Castro and Walter led a regime to overthrow the government. Created a new style of motor. During Castro's reign was basically the traditional cruiser motorcycle, communist ideas and policies, utilizing an air-cooled V to try to escape any way they could. They often tried to escape
Originally,
the
the
ocean.
brothers drew up an engine that designed to fit
One country that adopted
into a bicycle.
communism later than Hitler's
But
Germany,
the idea was very
and everyone else was Cuba.
Motorcycle
Fidel
started
Castro
evolving
led a regime to
into
overthrow
new
the
models
government
and makes.
in a forceful fashion.
Eventually,
During
a
Castro's
simple
reign,
bike with a motor
Cuba became notorious for their
full-blown
communist
speed
ideas
machine
and policies.
that created a
Citizens would try
culture.
to escape any way they could.
Although
They
it took a
often
while for
tried
the
to escape
brothers to
the
actually
ocean.
come up with a concrete idea, once they
One
put
country
them
that
into
adopted
action,
communism later than
popularity
Hitler's
skyrocketed.
Germany,
People had never
and
seen
everyone
anything
else
like
was
this
Cuba.
before.
Fidel Castro
It became a
led a
popular
regime
pastime
to
to
overthrow
raise
the
motorcycles
government
and do
in a
events
forceful
such as hill
fashion.
climbing.
During Castro's
Motorcycles
reign,
were designed to
Cuba
go up
became
steep hills
notorious for their communist
made it
ideas and
into a
policies.
sport.
Citizens would try to escape any way
By the
they
time
could.
Cubans got these
They
motorcycles,
often tried to
it was
escape
very
the
popular
ocean.
in the States. The Cuban people, who
One country that
associated
adopted
with
communism
motorcycles,
later than Hitler's
often
Germany,
called Harleystas.
and everyone else was Cuba.
These Harleystas
Fidel
would spend
Castro
days making
led a
their own
regime to
motorcycle,
overthrow the government
which they're
in a
Harley
forceful
parts
fashion.
This
During
is what
Castro's
made
reign,
Diedrich so
Cuba
intrigued.
became notorious for their communist ideas and policies. Citizens would try
As
to
the
escape
culture of
any
Harley
way they
Davidsons
could.
got around,
They often tried to escape
Cubans
the
were
ocean.
able to get their hands on more parts
One
and
country
make
that adopted
advancements in
communism later than
cosmetics and
Hitler's
mechanics
Germany,
of the bike.
and everyone else
They
was
started
Cuba.
to make more
Fidel
custom
Castro
models and
led
styles.
a regime to
This
overthrow
just
the
grew in
government
popularity
in a forceful
almost as
fashion.
fast as the motorcycle
During
culture in
Castro's
America.
reign, Cuba became notorious for their communist
What
ideas
really
and
amazed
policies.
Diedrich was the
Citizens
sheer
would try to
fact that
escape
these
any
Cubans
way
literally
they
had
could.
little to live
They
with,
often tried to
little
escape
opportunity
the
to
ocean.
better themselves. But once the
One
Harley
country that
culture showed
adopted
up on the
communism
scene,
later than
people
Hitler's
began to
Germany,
create a life for themselves.
and everyone else was Cuba.
This created
Fidel
a
Castro
form of
led a
expressing
regime to
themselves,
overthrow the
which they
government
never got to
in a
do
forceful
under the
fashion.
communist regime.
During Castro's reign,
In
Cuba
conclusion,
became
Felipe
notorious for their
Diedrich wrote
communist
these
ideas
novels
and
as a way of
policies.
showing what his family
Citizens would try to
had to go
escape
through.
any way
Going
they
back to
could.
the beginning of the
They often
presentation,
tried to escape
Diedrich's family
the
was
ocean.
affected by communism in very big ways.
One
Writing
country that
novels with
adopted
personal
communism
experiences
later than Hitler's
was for
Germany,
Diedrich to show
and everyone else
how
was
hard it
Cuba.
is to live
Fidel
under tight
Castro
regulations and
led a
laws in
regime to
communism.
overthrow the government in a